Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us Across the Fence. I'm Fran Stoddard. Producers of organic milk and other organic dairy products turned out in record numbers at the 2019 Vermont Organic Dairy Producers Conference. Like the conventional dairy market, sales of organic dairy products are down a bit, but unlike the conventional farmers, the price paid to organic farmers remains steady. Across the Fence stopped by to find out how farmers are faring in spite of tighter margins. Keith Silva tells us more.
The takeaway message from the 2019 Organic Dairy Producers Conference was stay positive.
Farming is still a great place to be.
There's a long-term cost over that lactation.
This annual conference brings together farmers, educators, and industry professionals from all sectors of the organic market. Guy Chouanier is an organic dairy farmer from Swan.
The farmers here are very positive. The speakers are very positive. So I'm hearing things that right from the horse's mouth, things that are hot off the press. And I'm bringing my son here now. We both look forward to it. We both get up super early this morning.
Is it tough to be positive nowadays?
It is. It is tough because of the competition that's coming at us. But I've always been open-minded, always ready for information. You do need to move with the times. You can't just stay in your rut. I think I would encourage kids still to look at farming as something positive. Is dairy the number one? I'm not sure sometimes because there's plenty of milk out there, but if you're in the right dairy market, you're going to have a lot of future.
On average, organic dairy farmers are paid twice the amount for their milk that conventional farmers are paid. Since 2014, the price paid to conventional dairy farmers has been at or below production. Organic dairy farmers have fared slightly better, in part because organic milk producers use a quota system to manage supply.
These are difficult times, and this is a time when we need to be together.
Gary Hirschberg is the chief organic optimist at Stonyfield Farm. He co-founded the company in 1983. At his keynote, he stressed, in spite of tight margins, there is growth in organic markets.
I know there's a lot of gloom and doom here because there's a whole lot more farmers who would like to go organic, and we simply don't have the capacity right now. We have supply matched very well with demand, but demand's growing slower than usual, and there's also a huge number of farmers who want to convert from conventional to organic. I started when there was no organic industry. I always say we had a wonderful company, just no supply and no demand, right? Today it's a $50 billion sector, still growing.
According to Hirschberg, yogurt has seen a slight increase, while milk sales remain steady. He believes consumers will determine the future of organic food.
People need to realize we have the power to choose the destiny for Vermont, for New England, for all these farmers. If you choose conventional, fine, I'm not opposed to that, but you got to understand that the pay price that you're paying is not going to keep these farmers in business. I mean, conventional dairy farmers are really an endangered species. We lost 13.5% of our conventional dairy farmers last year. So people have to understand that we have the power to direct the food system.
If the message from the speaker's podium was one of pure positivity, the mood in the room felt more like cautious optimism.
The situation with the market is pretty stable at the moment. We're told not to expect it to improve much or get worse.
Jordy Lind is an organic dairy farmer from South Walden. He talked with Across the Fence at last year's conference about how it pays to be optimistic even when the markets are down.
We've been lucky. We got started right after the 08-09 dairy crisis. We had several years of good prices to build up and get on our feet as a business. It was steady.
A year later, Lynn has maintained his optimism and feels better prepared for the future, having had time to adjust to a new normal.
If I could lock in this price for the next 30 years and figure out how to adjust to it, I'd take it in a minute compared to an uncertain situation where who knows
what will happen to the market. But that's just hypothetical, and I guess in the real world we're just going to keep watching the market, but mainly trying to do things on farm to adjust to it.
Among the presentations and predictions, this annual conference reminds Lind he's not alone.
Not to burst your image of farmers as people who only think about work, but it's about a half social, half educational event. There's always some good speakers and good topics. We always learn something, and it's also good to see all our brethren crawl out of the woodwork after most of the winter's gone and visit and see each other.
Winter may still have a proverbial hold on the organic milk market, but Vermont's organic dairy farmers are positive 2019 will warm up. In Randolph Center, I'm Keith Silva with Across the Fence.
Thank you, Keith. At colleges and universities around the country, there are thousands of traditional programs for future business entrepreneurs and leaders. Those traditional programs usually lead to a Master's in Business Administration, or MBA. At the University of Vermont, there's a relatively new business program that is anything but traditional. UVM students are learning how to create the business work of tomorrow with an eye on solving today's problems. Rebecca Gollin tells us more.
So the whole idea here is that
this may look like just any classroom, but what these students are learning is anything but business as usual.
Can business solve some of the most difficult problems that humanity faces by being creative and thoughtful and innovative?
Program director Joe Fusco spends a lot of time thinking about how to make the business world better.
The problems that we have in the next 50 years of human society look very different than the problems we've had over the last 50 years. So we can't approach business, we can't approach the way we manage and create businesses the same way in the future that we have in the past.
These students are part of the Sustainable Innovation Masters in Business Administration program at the University of Vermont's Grossman School of Business. It's a one-year program that incorporates learning traditional business skills like finances and operations within a larger framework of environmental and social responsibility.
So you start off with the idea, then you build this into your first product, and then you say, well, how would this first product actually build to a second product, a third product? How would it go into a more, not only environmentally and socially sustainable business, but a financially sustainable business as well?
Eric Munson is one of the professors in the program. In his class, students work in groups to come up with a sustainable business model.
Well, this course is getting their feet wet, probably not only their feet, but their knees, their hips, the whole body wet really quickly. Instead of waiting till the end of the program to throw them into an integrative course where you pull together all the skills, we decided it was important, and the students early on thought it was important, that they get exposed to entrepreneurship as early as possible.
On this day, the students are presenting those models to their classmates and the public.
Our business is Microsun, and it's basically a small solar kit for people who can't afford to get the full solar array that's sold for houses and homeowners and businesses.
And that's enough to power your TV, to laptops, charge your cell phone.
Noelle Nierenda and her group created a business model for a new kind of solar company. Each of the team members brought different skills to the project. For Nierenda, who had a career as a mechanical engineer before coming back to school, working in a team setting was itself part of the learning process.
It was more back and forth, more iterations, and not just within our group and our team, but also we had to do customer interviews, we had to research competitors in the field. So it was a lot more involved, and I really felt like I did learn a lot, though, just from the process of it. And just to realize that, there isn't just one way to solve a problem.
Nierenda was drawn to the program for its emphasis on solving those real-world problems.
I just felt like for development-wise and for improving living standards, there's only so much that being in the engineering field can do, but the biggest impact is what businesses have. And I really just wanted to be able to have greater impact with my technical knowledge by being able to produce better products, and I guess also understand how businesses can take up the role in development.
Some of the business models at the trade show are more than just an exercise. They're based on actual businesses.
My business is Green Man Acres, so it's a diversified farm on 230 acres in Moncton.
Former Marine Cameron McMahon is hoping to get his diversified farm business going next year. Since his group had to come up with a workable idea for the project, he pitched his business, and they decided to use it as their model.
Forestry and wood products, livestock, market garden and orchard, and hosting weddings and events. And so those are kind of the 4 core areas of the farm that I'm going to be developing.
The teams had to complete a variety of tasks, including developing competitor analysis and market research. Seeing the real numbers that go along with the different ventures he's planning has given McMahon a lot to think about.
Prior to coming into the program, my intention had been to really explore starting the wedding side of the business as kind of the first main focus. The main reason that I've kind of pulled back on that is because there's higher startup costs and more risk involved, potentially much higher revenues with it, but in being able to focus on something that's smaller scale, lower cost in the meantime to actually generate some revenue in the next couple of years makes more sense to me.
It's a new kind of business leader from the heart of Vermont.
So I often hear that, well, what can Vermont do? It's just a small state. And maybe what can UVM do? It's just one university. And so the thing I like to tell everybody is, and this is, it might be a cliche, but it is better to light a candle than to curse the darkness. So we all have responsibility to do what we can where we are, no matter how insignificant we think it is. It's not for us to judge whether what we're doing is insignificant. It's for us to take action and see what we can do to make change happen.
Changing the business world for the better, one future leader at a time. At the University of Vermont, I'm Rebecca Gollin with Across the Fence.
And a footnote to Rebecca's story, UVM's program is ranked #1 in the country by the Princeton Review. That's our program for today. Once again, thank you for joining us Across the Fence. I'm Fran Stoddard.